Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conquered, the podcast about how global leaders conquer themselves before conquering the world. I am your host, Alex Wu. In the second episode, we're talking about the one and only Jensen Huang. There are so many interviews and podcasts about Jensen already. Why am I still doing this? Like everyone else, I am fascinated by his accomplishment leading the AI revolution. But I'm actually more interested in his journey before founding NVIDIA. I want to look backwards and connect the dots to really understand what made Jensen Jensen. That's why I named this second episode Young Jensen. Like young Sheldon, you get the reference. I know Jensen mentioned a few times in his interviews that he does not like analyzing himself. So I'll do it for him. The main source of my research are two books. The first one, The NVIDIA Way by Taken. And another one that is a little more recent, it's on my Kindle, The Thinking Machine by Stephen Witt. Also, the Acquired podcast had a 3-episode series on NVIDIA, plus an interview with Jensen himself. I think the total time is around 10 hours. It's very well done, so I encourage you to check it out. Besides all of those, there are so many interviews and talks that Jensen gave over the years. He is just very productive. He works super hard. But I want to say most of the videos are him talking about his vision, about him preaching the need for accelerated computing, etc. There's not much content or material about his early childhood and early career. Like I said, he does not like to analyze himself. He focuses more on what's happening right now. He's a very practical CEO. So in this episode, let's uncover how Jensen conquered himself before he conquered the world. Jensen Huang was born on February the 17th, 1963. His family was poor. His dad is a chemical engineer. His mom is a teacher. Jensen has an older brother and a younger brother. The family relocated a lot to accommodate Jensen's dad's work. When Jensen was 5 years old, the entire family moved from Taiwan to Thailand to pursue some opportunities. And Jensen was enrolled in an international school in Bangkok, in Thailand. He actually skipped a grade in elementary school. His mom is very proud of his academic achievements. Apparently, Jensen is a very smart kid. Also, he is a little troublemaker. In his own words, mischievous. I actually found an old interview he gave in Shanghai around 2007. Where he was speaking half Chinese and half English. It was quite good. I'm very impressed by his Mandarin because I thought his family only spoke Hokkien, a local dialect. But yeah, his Mandarin was really good. It was limited, but it was not bad at all. And in 2007, back then NVIDIA was just a GPU, a gaming card company. In this rare interview, Jensen shared an interesting story. And I don't think I've heard of it anywhere else on the internet or in any books. And believe me, I've pretty much watched and read everything out there about Jensen. I was obsessed about Jensen while doing my research. So this is in his own words. He was at this interview. There was a ton of audience in the studio. And he said, I was in Thailand and it was at night time. I had discovered lighter fluid. I went to the swimming pool and I put the lighter fluid in the swimming pool, lit it on fire. Now, the entire audience at the show, they were in disbelief, including the host. I guess that's what Jensen wanted. He's a very good storyteller. Then Jensen commented in Chinese, 好漂亮啊, which means it was beautiful. The host then asked, what's next? Jensen just casually said in Chinese, 跳进去啊, which means I just jumped in. Now the entire audience bursted into laughter and applauded. I believe Jensen's daughter was in the audience too. Yeah, she was laughing and applauding. Then Jensen continued, looking down from above, it was beautiful. But from below, looking up, he then took a really long pause and then said, unbelievable. To this day, I still remember the beautiful images. The host kept asking, your parents must be worried. Jensen said, no, I don't think my parents will be concerned. They always told us, be good people, be honest, be careful, and then that's it. My mom and dad saw that picture, and my mom was very proud of that picture. And she said, beautiful dive, beautiful dive. End quote. I don't know who took the picture, maybe his brother. Like I said, Jensen has always been a fascinating storyteller. It was an amazing story. So interesting, so captivating. I was especially impressed by this unique story because I think, first of all, it shows that Jensen is naturally risk-seeking from very early on. You know, he's smart, he's naughty, and that's what smart, naughty kids do to, make some trouble here and there. Second thing is it shows that his family was very supportive of him with a few basic rules. And that created a very safe environment for Jensen to operate, to experiment, and to express himself. I think Jensen's parents did their best to protect his curiosity. The third thing is Jensen stays very focused and clear-headed, even during chaotic moments, or I should say, especially during chaotic moments. Imagine yourself in a swimming pool and surrounded by fire. And the one and only thing in your mind is how beautiful the flames are. That is borderline crazy, in my opinion, even for a 5-year-old. And all of these are qualities that helped him later on in life and in business. And we're about to find out. At 9 years old, Jensen and his brother Jeff were sent to the United States. And they spent the first 2 years in Oneida, Kentucky, one of the poorest towns in the U.S., away from their parents, because their parents, they have to stay in Thailand. But little did their parents know the school that they were sent to was not a well-maintained boarding school. It was actually a reform school for troubled kids in the U.S. It is called Oneida Baptist Institute, OBI in short. It is a very disciplined environment, but it is very harsh. According to Jensen, there were cigarette butts everywhere, and everyone carried a pocket knife around. Jensen talked a lot about this school and his experience in his interviews over the years, so I won't bother telling it again. You can go listen to the Joe Rogan interview or read the 2 books that I mentioned earlier. Jensen did a Joe Rogan interview recently, and it was really popular. He shared a lot of very good, fun experience with Joe and with the audience. There's one interesting anecdote mentioned in the Thinking Machine book. Jensen, being the youngest and the shortest in school, he gets picked on a lot. And here's how he works around it. Quote, whatever the local boys knew about Chinese culture came from the films of Bruce Lee. Huang initially ran a bluff, telling his classmates that he was a martial arts expert. This was quickly disproven in the schoolyard. End quote. You can see that he's got some street smarts in him, not just a book smart. Yeah, he's good at studying, but he knows how to survive in an environment like OBI. A little history on OBI. I found this on the official school website. Oneida Baptist Institute was founded in 1899. The turn of the century was a dark time in the eastern Kentucky mountains. There was mass illiteracy and few schools. Men and boys were being killed in bloody feuds. OBI's founder, James Anderson Burns, sought to end the feuds by uniting families of warring clans in a common goal: Christian education for their children. The idea was to, this is quoting the founder Burns, to give the children religious education till they learned to love one another and forgot how to hate. The school opened with 100 students and 4 teachers on January 1st, 1900. Tuition was $1 per month, which many families could not afford to pay at times. Burns accepted sheepskin, coal, and even a bull as tuition. He turned no one away. Students also worked on campus to help pay their way. The 1950s were marked by a steady change in the student population. More young people from other states began coming to Oneida, and the school was approved for international students. I think that is the main reason why Jensen was sent to the school. Free boarding school for young international students in the US are so rare to find. There's nowhere to find schools like that. In 2020, Jensen donated a building to Oneida Baptist Institute. In his speech, he said that his time at the school was one of the best things ever happened to him. I truly admire that. It's such a harsh environment, but a positive person can turn any adversity into a fortune and to remain a positive attitude. Yeah, that's Jensen. So while Jensen and his brother are trying to fit in at the school, their parents are still in Thailand with their little brother. The family, like I mentioned, they were really poor. They couldn't afford international calls. But they came up with this great idea to keep in touch. And Jensen shared this story multiple times. I quote, "My parents recorded a tape every single month, a full tape. They talked to us. This is what we did today." And they mailed the tape to us in Kentucky. And it breaks my heart because I took the tape, I turned it around, I recorded over last month. And I told my parents, this is what we did, this is what we had for dinner. Hamburgers were so big as basketball. We then sent the tape back to them. It breaks my heart because after 2 years, there was no tape. End quote. This is such a moving story. You realize that today, kids and their parents, they live under the same roof. They sit on the same dining table, but they don't talk to each other. Everyone is on their phones. There's zero bonding happening. Whereas when Jensen and his brother talk to their parents via a cassette tape, the bond within the family is stronger than ever. I bet Jensen did not talk much about the challenges they were going through at the school on a daily basis. I don't think he would talk about the bullies, the chores, washing toilets, stuff like that, because he didn't want his parents to get worried, and vice versa. That is a lot of pain for a 10-year-old to endure. And Jensen said, quote, "Back then, there wasn't a counselor to talk to. You just had to toughen up and move on." I like this the best, the following quote. "Even though we are far away from my parents, they love me very much. I feel very safe," Jensen said. So let me pause here for a second. What Jensen experienced before teenage is highly unusual. It is a very risky move by his parents to send him to the United States with his brother. Because for a smart, naughty kid, when surrounded by troubled peers, things could have easily gone to the other direction. He could have picked up very bad habits and ended up in prison. Yeah. But Jensen survived and thrived in that environment. So let's dive a little deeper. In episode 1, we talked about how Zhang Yiming, the founder of ByteDance that owns TikTok, improved himself like an algorithm. I borrowed some machine learning concepts to explain the process where newspapers and magazines are data sets that pre-trained his brain. And that is considered self-supervised learning in machine learning terms. It is basically how these language models, transformers like ChatGPT, how they learn from information on the internet. In Jensen's case, though, it is different. It is more like reinforcement learning. Instead of learning from a rich, structured data set, Jensen was dropped in this very unfamiliar environment. And you learn by acting, observing, adjusting to survive and improve. And one of the most critical things for reinforcement learning is the reward. And Jensen's parents set the simple but fundamental intrinsic rewards for him. He mentioned in previous interview, just be good, be honest, and be careful. His parents have very high expectations for Jensen with tremendous amount of trust and love. Those reward signals are fundamental, but they are sparse because his parents are not around to jump in when necessary. Remember, they communicate through cassette tape once a month, so that's very infrequent. The Oneida Baptist Institute, on the other hand, is a very disciplined and harsh environment for a 9-year-old immigrant, but it definitely provided dense and more immediate reinforcement. Jensen is not solely relying on guidance from his parents. And that's crucial because OBI is a reform school and it is very strict. Any bad behavior warrants immediate punishments, and that is immediate negative reward for the naughty Jensen. Second, it values hard physical work. Older kids are required to work on the farm, and the younger kids like Jensen are assigned to do chores like cleaning the toilets. So that teaches Jensen to stay very humble, to respect and value hard work. And third, it is a school, so it values good academic performance, and that reinforces Jensen's winning strategy policy, and that is to become the best student in the school. The good news is he is very good at studying. He also knows that his mom has very high expectation for him, and he tries super hard. He talks about this all the time in interviews. He tries super hard to live up to that expectation of his mom. So supervised learning is all about pattern recognition, but reinforcement learning is really about survival. That process is painful. You suffer a lot. You fail all the time, but survival becomes an instinct. And that instinct stayed with Jensen for life. So after Jensen spent 2 years in Oneida, his parents finally moved to the United States. The Huang family now lives together in Portland, Oregon. And Jensen skipped another grade. And in 1976, he was enrolled in Aloha High School. This is a much more stable and less harsh environment. He can really enjoy himself and pursue fun things to do. He joins the math club, the science club, and the computer club where he got to play with an Apple II computer. But his heart belongs to table tennis. And you might think this is something stereotypical where Chinese are good at table tennis. But the truth is, Jensen never played table tennis in Asia. It just happened that there was a table tennis club called Paddle Palace in downtown Portland that is close to where Jensen lived. He starts going there every day. The owner of the club is named Lou Bocheski, whose daughter Judy played professionally and visited Beijing in 1971 as part of the U.S. delegation team for the purpose of ping-pong diplomacy. There's a very rich history behind that where I believe Nixon and Mao met the first time after a long time, and ping-pong played a critical role in reigniting that relationship. FYI, Marty Supreme was not part of that 1971 U.S. delegation to China. I did look it up. I haven't watched the movie yet, but it sounds like an interesting movie. Jensen was crazy about table tennis in summer 1977, and he pretty much lived there at the club so that he could play all the time. And Jensen is so good that the club owner, Lou, sent in a comment to Sports Illustrated. I quote, "He is perhaps the most promising junior ever to play table tennis in the Northwest. Jensen Huang earns his money to travel to tournaments, to take part in clinics, and to play table tennis by scrubbing floors. Here at the Paddle Palace, he is a straight A student and very hungry to become a table tennis champion. He has played only 3 months, but I suggest you watch out for him in another year." End quote. So I used to play table tennis competitively in China for a little over a year. I guess I'm somewhat qualified to comment on Jensen's skill level. First of all, judging by his daughter's Judy's accomplishment, Lou, the club owner, must have a very high bar when it comes to a player's potential. What was shocking to me was that Lou called Jensen the most promising junior ever in the Northwest when he only played 3 months. That is crazy. Granted, real table tennis professionals starts at a much younger age, 4 or 5 years old, and here is Jensen, about 14 years old, never played table tennis before in his life, working hard for merely 3 months, and getting the attention of a very seasoned ping-pong veteran. I think Jensen really stood out with his unparalleled work ethics. He simply outworked everybody when he sets his mind to achieve something. And he must be a very aggressive and competitive player. I can almost picture him playing offense all the time, tirelessly with a very strong forehand, with Western grip, of course. Anyway, Jensen played ping pong competitively for a few years, and even played in the 1978 US Open tournament, and got 3rd place in junior doubles. I think he and his partner lost to a Swedish team in the semifinals. And to this date, Paddle Palace still exists. I actually checked out their website. They have completely transformed into an online shop for anything ping pong related. If you are a ping pong fan, check them out. Maybe you can find something useful or interesting on their website. You might wonder why I spent so much time on Jensen's ping pong adventure. That's because I think it carries over directly into his work and business philosophy. To master ping pong, you have to understand a few principles. First, the competition starts way before the actual game. It starts off court, where you put in countless hours of hard work and practice. Jensen simply outworks everyone when he plays ping pong. Later in his career, he's well known for working nonstop. He outworks everyone when he founded NVIDIA. The second thing about ping pong is speed is king. You have to move fast, swing fast, and react fast. You have to change your tactics based on your opponent and the situation. There's not a strategy or tactics that works all the time. You have to change it up. You have to improvise sometimes. Jensen is not the tallest or the strongest, but he is the fastest and the smartest. And those qualities served him well. It reminded me of NVIDIA has this internal notion called speed of light. That means everything has to happen or move at the theoretical speed limit. And the company would release a new product every 6 months when the industry norm was 18 months at the time. And the third thing is you have to be super competitive. Jensen hates losing more than he likes winning. He's extremely competitive and aggressive. He believes that offense is the best defense. He's also a super aggressive business leader later in his career. He never sits around. NVIDIA is always innovating, investing in the future, crushing competitors. The Thinking Machine book has a story about him beating up a coworker in ping pong in the early days at NVIDIA. I find that very funny. It is kind of like Michael Jordan, who would take anything personal, both on and off the court. That competitiveness is just so key to success. You can see that Jensen truly loved table tennis and he was all in. He put all of his heart and effort in. But at the end, he said, my passion for academics exceeds table tennis, so I went to college. That's the end of his ping pong career. While in high school, besides ping pong, there's another thing that molded Jensen in a big way, and that is his part-time job at a restaurant. According to himself, he was very shy in high school, and he gained confidence working in the restaurant industry. His brother got the job for him, and he becomes a dishwasher at Denny's. He worked a lot. He worked the dishwasher, the busser, waiter. He worked graveyard shifts. And don't get me wrong, I know restaurant work is very hard, but everything is relative. Compared to washing all of the toilets at Oneida, I think to Jensen, washing dishes for 8 hours does not seem that bad. Plus, you get paid also. And Jensen said that for those 8-hour shifts, he worked every second of it, and he enjoyed every second of it. As someone who had experience in both semiconductor industry and the restaurant industry, I can say that the two industries are very different. One thing I find most challenging about restaurant is that you are firefighting all the time. It could be equipment failure or one staff not showing up, you have to step in, or customer complaints, food safety issues, or even extreme weather conditions. There are just so many things that are out of your control. The list goes on. And you just have to stay calm and hustle through it. For Jensen, though, it seems like he thrives in chaos. I quote, I find that I think best when I'm under adversity. When the world is just falling apart, I actually think my heart rate goes down. Maybe it's Denny's. As a waiter, you've got to deal with rush hour. Another thing that is worth mentioning about his restaurant days is that he really bonded with Denny's, the brand, because later in his career, he and the two other partners, they would meet at a Denny's restaurant frequently in Silicon Valley to start NVIDIA. I also think that Jensen really valued his restaurant experience, and that had a huge impact on his children. His daughter, Madison, studied culinary arts in the US and then France, and then used to work as a chef before she ventured into marketing. His son, Spencer, operated a bar in Taipei for 7 to 8 years while he was learning Chinese in Taiwan. You can search them up on LinkedIn. I also found this great video by Gary Guo. He had this amazing episode on the backstory of Jensen's kids, their journey. I have the link in the show notes. So both Madison and Spencer work at NVIDIA now. Both of them took a long detour in their early careers. Again, I find it super interesting because Jensen was in no rush to prune them to take over the NVIDIA empire. Restaurant is a very tough industry. It makes you very humble. You learn how to tolerate a lot of the pain, and you have to work extremely hard to excel in the restaurant industry. Going back to my reinforcement learning framework for personal development, to survive and thrive in restaurant, you have to be able to multitask because there's so many things happening at the same time. It's kind of like parallel computing. Maybe Jensen find similarity between restaurant operations and the GPU operation for his kids to understand restaurant operation, and that would help them understand how GPU works. I'm just kidding. You also have to stay very focused. You have to come up with solutions fast when something causes the whole operation to fall apart. You're always hustling, pushing, and progressing. You observe, you take actions, and you learn from your own mistakes all the time. Jensen puts his children in a restaurant environment for them to develop personalities and characters. What an interesting choice. Or maybe he did not get to participate much or dictate much, because in a recent interview, Jensen shared that he was mostly absent from his children's activities. He's just so busy working, so committed. Regardless, both of his children are executives at NVIDIA now. Jensen shared that what he considered a vacation is just to be physically with his family, but he's still working during vacation. And now his kids are working too. 3 of them are always working, even when they're on vacation. And yeah, that is just amazing. That work ethics runs in the family. To quickly recap Jensen's early childhood, it is very eventful. He grew up in Taiwan, then moved to Thailand. He learned how to survive at OBI. He became competitive playing ping-pong, and then developed work ethics and mastered social skills at Denny's. He's still only 16 years old when he graduated high school. And with his grades, he could have gone to any college, like Stanford, Harvard, but he picked Oregon State University, OSU. I think the main reason is that it is close to home. He's still a kid, after all. The family moved around too much in the past decade, and Jensen really wanted to spend more time with family. Plus, his best friend is going there too. The tuition is cheaper, and Jensen considered himself very good at math. He thinks that engineering needs a ton of math, so he picks electrical engineering. His college choice seems casual, but it makes sense. Remember, I was talking about Zhang Yiming's college picking process in episode 1. Both of them seems to know themselves pretty well. They know what they value the most. Of course, just like Zhang Yiming, Jensen made the perfect college choice. Actually, later he commented that studying electrical engineering at OSU was one of the most important decisions that he made, because not only did he find his life of work, he also found his life partner. Jensen's wife, Lori, was enrolled in electrical engineering at OSU the same year, and she is 2 years older than Jensen. There were 250 boys, but only 3 girls. Jensen laid eyes on her very early on, but he was only 16 and looked like 12. Luckily for Jensen, Lori and him were assigned as lab partners, so Jensen really leveraged his biggest asset, his brain. Jensen said, quote, "Every weekend we were together doing homework because I'm just very good at homework. I would call her, 'Do you want to do homework? We have to do homework. It's time to do homework.'" Yeah, he was very good at homework. And they were together after 6 months of working as lab partners. And they're still together after 40 years. So again, compared to Zhang Yiming, where he found his girlfriend and they got married in college, it reminded me of Mark Zuckerberg, who married his girlfriend, Priscilla Chang, at Harvard. Do you see what is common among these people? Family come first in Asian cultures. I know Mark is not Asian, but he is an Asian son-in-law. In Confucian thought, there is a clear progression. Master yourself first, then take care of the family, and then govern the state, and finally conquer the world. Apparently, Jensen followed that progression, and it served him well. In college, both Jensen and Lori majored in electrical engineering, so they spent a lot of time working on breadboards, wiring components to build a useful circuit. I cannot help but bringing Zhang Yiming up again, because Yiming found breadboarding so boring, and he ended up switching major, whereas Jensen never complained. He enjoyed every second of it, and he would stay in hardware business for another 45 years and counting. I guess people now would argue that NVIDIA's moat is not hardware anymore, but software like CUDA. Anyway, I was not able to find much about his college days, but in 2009, Jensen gave a commencement speech at OSU, and he gave 3 wishes. Number 1, work hard, love the work you do, and find your life of work. Number 2, embrace failure and learn from it. Number 3, see the world like a child. Take a mental note on that third point, see the world like a child, because we will come back to that pretty soon. After graduating OSU, Jensen has offers from pretty much everyone. He's that good. He has offers from AMD, Intel, TI, National Semiconductor, LSI Logic. He picks AMD because the company would expose him to everything: bipolar microprocessors, instruction decoder and sequencer, pipelines, design trade-offs. And most importantly, he moved from Portland to Silicon Valley, the center of the world where everything is about to unfold. And that relationship with AMD has come full circle. After 40 years, AMD now is one of the biggest competitors to NVIDIA. On the personal life side, Jensen proposed to Lori at the AMD Christmas party after he started working. Lori said yes, of course. And here's the crazy part. Being 21 and being Jensen, he decided to drive his red Honda Supra from San Francisco to Portland that evening with Lori. And they got into a big car accident and they could have been killed. The car was totaled and Jensen was in cast for a few months. And later, when asked about the accident, he mostly expressed regret for the car. Incredible car, he said. And there you see what he meant by seeing the world as a child, because he completely ignored his own personal safety and his fiance's. And I had the same feeling about the time when he lit up the swimming pool and jumped in. Maybe his secret in maintaining a contrarian view on things is that he indulges himself to be a kid sometimes. And that's the incredible car he was talking about, a Honda Red Supra. Jensen also started going to Stanford night school after he moved to Silicon Valley to get his master in electrical engineering. It took him 8 years to get his master's degree. I quote you, Jensen. I was working at AMD and LSI Logic. Lori and I were married by then. Then Spencer showed up, and a year and change later, Madison. When the kids came along, the number of classes I could take dwindled even further. But I never gave up on it because I love going to school so much. I think this is a good example of my personality. I can be impatient about certain things, but infinitely patient about others. I plug away. It's been almost 18 years now, and I'm still at NVIDIA. I just plug away. I have a very long-term horizon. It took me 8 years to finish my master's at Stanford. That's gotta be a record. I remember being concerned that I was running up against the deadline, that the math I'd learned was going to be obsolete, and they were going to kick me out, and I'd have to start over. What really strikes me first is the workload. He's working full-time, overtime on a lot of the days. He's raising 2 young kids, and he's taking night classes at Stanford. Jensen is a superhuman. But what's impressed me most is his patience. Like he said, he can be demanding and impatient when it comes to execution. For example, releasing products on a 6-month cadence. But he can also be extremely patient by spending almost a decade at Stanford, not as a full-time student just passing through, but as a working engineer sitting alongside professors, PhD students, and researchers. I think Jensen absorbed something that most industry leaders never really internalized, and that is how slow and fragile fundamental research actually is. Because research doesn't move on quarterly timelines. It doesn't have obvious return on investment. It requires patience, institutional support, and a tolerance for long periods of apparent nothing happening. So years later, when Jensen insists on investing heavily in CUDA, building tools for graduate students, professors, and researchers, almost no one sees the short-term payoff. Wall Street doesn't, competitors don't, even board members and VPs at NVIDIA, they don't see the value. But Jensen does. In that sense, Jensen's patience at Stanford wasn't a detour from his career. It was training for the most consequential long-term decision he would ever make, to invest in accelerated computing, to invest in CUDA, to invest in the future. Now, I want to take a little tangent and talk about Morris Chang a little bit. Morris also went to Stanford. He got his PhD in electrical engineering in 1974. I want to draw some parallels between Morris and Jensen because on the surface, there are many similarities. They're both Asian Americans. They received the best education in the United States. They both run the most important and respected tech companies in the world. And they're very good friends. They're very close friends. And rumor says that at one point, Morris was considering Jensen to be his successor to run TSMC. Of course, that's before NVIDIA becomes the most valuable company in the world. At a fireside chat, Jensen asked Morris how he started small when founding TSMC after the TI experience. Because Jensen started NVIDIA in a small way. He was discussing business plan, doing sales projections at the Denny's restaurant. They set up office in his partner's house. Yeah, Jensen was really frugal. After NV1 failed, they fired more than half of the people and operated with 40-ish employees. And that's how Jensen started his own venture. And what's interesting is that Morris was confused about the question because he has never gone through that garage startup phase. He never worked in the restaurants. Even at TI, he got promoted very fast to become an executive. When TSMC was founded, it was backed by the Taiwanese government. They raised $100 million in 1987 and built a 150 people team right off the bat. But that difference in life experience does not get in the way of them becoming lifelong friends and business partners. What I'm trying to say is that Jensen is truly special. He combines book smart and street smart at the highest level. I cannot think of any other tech CEOs who gives that vibe. Jensen is just very cool with his leather jacket, but he's very composed. He's very down to earth. He jokes around. He's just very approachable, fascinating person. Now, back to Jensen's career. During those 8 years at Stanford, Jensen even switched job. After working at AMD for about a year, Jensen started feeling limited with the chip design process. AMD was building the chip by hand pretty much, and it was very inefficient. A friend from LSI Logic poached Jensen during that time. He decided to give this new company a try. The founder, Wilf Corrigan, founded the company LSI Logic after serving as the president of Fairchild Semiconductor. He took the company public in 1983. The company focused more on providing tools to enable more focused chip design. And Jensen said that he got the intuition on NVIDIA while working at LSI Logic. That's a big deal. How you put everything together, EDA, system design, tools, semiconductor design, everything. And he worked extremely hard. There's no weekends. And every day he works from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. I'm not surprised that he got promoted multiple times. And within a few years, he was managing a big group. And one of the customers he was serving was Sun Microsystems. And he delivered big time. And he got 2 big wins out of this project. Number one, his work ethics and business skills, project management skills were recognized by the 2 engineers at Sun Microsystems. After the project was done, those 2 reached out to Jensen and asked him to be the co-founder and CEO of a startup graphic chip company. And that was how NVIDIA was founded. The second one, Jensen was noticed by the founder and CEO at LSI Logic, Wilf Corrigan. When Jensen told Wilf that he was leaving LSI Logic to start his company, Wilf connected him with Don Valentine from Sequoia for the seed funding. So Jensen now completed his master's degree at Stanford. He had 8 years of semiconductor industry experience under his belt where he designed circuits, he managed projects, led teams. He's ready for something bigger. And as far as founding NVIDIA goes, unlike a lot of the startup founders, Jensen did not come up with the idea. He was poached by Chris and Curtis, the two engineers from Sun Systems. In one of his interviews, Jensen said that if not for Chris and Curtis approaching him, he would still be working at LSI Logic, maybe to retirement. I believe him. I think Jensen is a very grounded person. He only takes calculated risks. It's not like a super ambitious visionary from day one. Now he is a visionary leader in AI, but when he was about to turn 30, he was not. He made the decision to join Chris and Curtis because he thought he would enjoy working with them. And he had no concern to find another job fast if the venture failed. In fact, his boss at LSI Logic, Wolf, said that he would keep his desk in case Jensen comes back. Jensen once said to Lori that by age 30, he would be the CEO of a company. And he kept his promise. Jensen started his first day at NVIDIA on February the 17th, 1993, on his 30th birthday. And his timing is impeccable. Over the next 3 decades, NVIDIA rode and in some ways shaped 3 massive waves. First, the boom of PC, graphics, and gaming. The second, the end of Moore's Law, which made parallel and accelerated computing inevitable. And finally, the AI revolution that we're witnessing now. And NVIDIA is at the center of that revolution. And Jensen didn't just catch good timing. He stayed in the seat long enough to compound it. NVIDIA did go through a few ups and downs along the way. One of the most distinct things about Jensen is that NVIDIA never stops shipping new architectures, new products, new platforms, often faster than the market feels comfortable with. From the outside, this can look very risky, even irresponsible. Why not wait? Why not be more conservative? But through a reinforcement learning lens, this behavior makes perfect sense. Because you don't learn by sitting around, you learn by acting in the environment, observing feedback and updating your policy. If you don't act, then you don't get reward signals. If you don't get reward signals, you don't learn. And Jensen understands this deeply. By continuously releasing new products, NVIDIA is constantly probing reality. Every launch generates information. What worked, what broke, where customers struggled, where the bottlenecks really are. Mistakes are welcomed. They are data. Of course, there are risks. NVIDIA went through multiple near-death moments. But as long as you recover over time, that learning advantages compound. For example, AlphaGo is not very good after the first few games, but after tens of thousands of games, it can beat the best human player in the world. So to sum it up, Jensen didn't just build a company, he built a thinking machine. NVIDIA works because it is natural to him. It is an extension of how he thinks. He thinks in parallel, he thinks long-term, he's comfortable with chaos, he is obsessed with learning through iteration. In fact, I would argue Jensen himself is a thinking machine, running continuously for more than 30 years, and that thinking and learning keeps compounding for over 30 years. Before I wrap up, I wanted to compare Jensen with Elon for a little bit, because researching on Jensen's early childhood and early career got me really thinking about Elon's journey. I have read a lot about Elon, the biography by Walter Isaacson. I read that multiple times. I'm currently reading Liftoff, Elon Musk and the Desperate Early Days that launched SpaceX by Eric Berger. I have tremendous respect for both Elon and Jensen. The Thinking Machine book has this quote: "The parallels between Musk and Huang were obvious. They were immigrants, they were screamers, they were gamblers, they were world-class engineers. It took a sharper eye to spot the differences. There was the vision question, with Musk moving backward from fantasy and Huang moving forward from reality. So insightful. Yeah, no question about it. Elon is a dreamer. His inspirations come from sci-fi books and movies. He reads a lot of them as a child. His companies are working on things you would only find in the science fiction. Jensen, on the other hand, does not read much science fiction. He does not read much biography either. However, he has read tons of business books. He's super practical. He's not looking for inspirations in books. He's looking for practical information on how to write a business plan, how to position the product, how to do sales, marketing, etc. What he really focuses on is how he can keep pushing himself and his company to be a little bit better every single day. And I believe their early childhood experience shaped their inspirations and motivations for life. And also that childhood experience had a huge impact on how they treat people and employees. I keep quoting here. There was also the topic of loyalty. Musk did not value it. He often fired people arbitrarily and without warning. In one case, canning the entire Starlink engineering team almost at random on a Sunday afternoon. Huang almost never fired anyone, and when he did, it was only after multiple cautions and the offer of a performance improvement plan. It took truly egregious behavior to get kicked out of NVIDIA, and many employees worked there for decades. My take on this is that both of them went through childhood hardship that molded their personalities, characters, and that is why both Jensen and Elon are talking about pain and suffering all the time. However, the real impacts of those pains and suffering on them are different. I think Elon's childhood was not happy. His parents got divorced. His dad abused him a lot. He got bullied at school, and he immersed himself in books almost as a defense mechanism. The pain really internalized and became part of him. Deep down, he feels insecure. Whereas Jensen grew up feeling loved all the time. Remember, he said even when his parents were not around, he felt loved. He felt safe. He's very secure, and that is why he is capable of practicing tough love to his employees, his direct reports, his business partners. He truly sees them as family. He wants them to be successful. However, being on the receiving end of his criticism, which is called the wrath of Huang, you just cannot take it too personal. You have to understand where he is coming from. I guess wrapping up the episode here, I think my main takeaways from researching Young Jensen are the followings. A safe family environment is so key, so critical, so crucial in childhood development. And as parents, I think the best thing we can do is to make sure that our kids feel safe all the time and that they stay curious and stay focused. And then that's about it. Next one, love what you do and do it to the best of your capability. No matter what the job is. For Jensen, cleaning toilets at the boarding school, scrubbing floors at the table tennis club, even washing dishes at Denny's, Jensen gave everything he had. How you do everything is how you do anything. I think Jensen said multiple times he's the best dishwasher that Denny's ever had. He has no doubt. He's the best busser. He's the best waiter at Denny's. I guess that just shows how serious, how dedicated he is when he's working on something. He gives 100%, 120%. And then you should embrace adversity and turn it into something beneficial. Jensen survived and thrived at Oneida, and he came out a different person. Yeah, that experience did not crush him. Instead, he learned valuable lessons and the qualities that's going to stay with him for his entire life. Then the next one, when you are early in your career, you have to work extremely hard. This is similar to one of the takeaways the Zhang Yiming episode. You have to work extremely hard. Normally, that is easier for people in their early 20s. No family, no kids, nothing to lose. However, Jensen was built different. He had a family with 2 little kids, and he was attending classes at Stanford for 8 years, and he somehow pulled 80, 90 hours work week consistently. That is insane work ethics. Finally, try to see the world as a child. You should be serious about your work. Also, you should try to have some fun sometimes. Life is a long journey. You have to learn how to enjoy it. Like Jensen said, don't get fired, don't get bored either. And I think that's about it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.